In this tutorial video, we're going to demonstrate how ColorLogic will convert a file to do white ink masking, which is an automated way of processing the files by using our dedicated color palettes and our swatch book. Then we're going to do the same file but doing a traditional white ink masking method. So there's no trickery involved here. This is an actual real customer file that's just come in, and it is for a wine label. And what the brief is basically to have the gold areas print as a gold, and then for everything else to print out of CMYK. So seems quite simple, doesn't look like there's that much involved with the design, and from a ColorLogic perspective it's actually very easy to achieve. Now let's have a look at the back page. Similar thing, we've got the logo at the top, we've got some gold text, some strokes, and that's about it really. So all the gold areas we're going to convert into a gold. So the way we do this with ColorLogic is, first of all, you would have your swatch book that is printed off your press. That gives you the 100% color accurate system for you to design with. So from there we would look at the color book and we say, what color do we want to use? Now I'm going to use number 17, which is a nice gold in our system. So I'm going to go to the window menu, I'm going to go to Graphic Style Libraries, ColorLogic, and we'll see here we've got all our colors and all of our effects. So what I'm going to do is start off on this back page here. I'll start off with something nice and easy. So we're going to pick up these areas. So let's just pick up a few different elements. Obviously it's easy if things are grouped to start with, but this is a live in real life. So I'm just going to ungroup everything. So I've got it right down at its base level, just so we can see here the current color that it's showing in the appearance. So I'm now going to click on number 17 and it colors it up for me. Always make sure that you're in overprint preview mode, because if you're not, it will look grey. So turn that back on. I'm just going to group my items again. So next time if I want to go, I can pick them up nice and easy. So if I wanted to change something, I can ungroup, I can change the color and make it whatever I like. Okay, so that's the first one. We have these strokes down here. Now when it comes to working with strokes, there are two ways you can do this. You can either outline your strokes, so it becomes a fill, and then you can use your graphic style, or you can work with the appearance. So we're actually going to work with the appearance and pick up the stroke color. I'm going to go, this time we're going to go and pick up a different palette. So we've got two types of palettes we can work with. I'm going to go to our Swatch Libraries, and these are all of our colors just in CMYK before they were made metallic. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use number 17, and that's given them a color. And now I'm going to put a new stroke layer over the top of it and color it up ColorLogic, and then from my attributes window I'm going to set that to overprint. So now I've got my gold lines. Let's take up this thing here. I'm going to go back to my graphic style library, which was not that one. Let's close some of these libraries down because I've got a few too many ColorLogic ones open. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to go back to number 17 and I'm going to apply that effect. And then we've got this one over here. And let's see if we can do this slightly quicker. Drag over that. Yeah. Okay, number 17. Okay, so now on the back, at least all my text and lines are all done in the gold color. Now I need to work on this logo here. So same thing, I'm going to pick this up, making sure I'm on the fill, make it number 17. This one has got a stroke around it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to go Object, Path, outline the stroke. So now it becomes a fill. So first of all I'm going to pick the first one up and colour it up, and then I'm going to pick up the other one which we outlined, and this one I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go Path, outline stroke. Now I can pick it up and apply it as a fill. So it's just a quick way to use the graphic styles, because then it does it more automated. So again I'm going to go and outline that stroke. Oops. Path, outline stroke, pick it back up, and apply my gold. So we do this for all the areas that we want to convert. And I could just pick up the whole thing and outline the strokes, but I just thought I'll just do it this way so you can manually see what we're doing as we're going along. Just makes it easier for you to be able to follow. So now we have done that element. So let's just take a look at what we've done so far. Let's move a few of these things out of the way. So let's open up our separation preview. Now we've got a whole range of colours in here because of the artwork, but what I'm after is the colour logic separation. So if I turn off all of these, you'll see when we get down to it, the colour logic areas have got this silver separation. So that is your silver substrate that is coming through, and everything that's white, what you see here, will print with white ink. So that's our system done. No white ink masking required. When we print the colour over the top, the colour overprints the foil and becomes a gold foil. So that is how we convert a file. Now from there, we're going to do the other page. This one's probably just about as easy. Let's do it a slightly different way. Let's see if we can pick that up. Yes. In fact, actually there's some text in there, which I don't know why. We've got text in there in the logo, but it's a customer's file. So anyway. Okay, so I've now got just the logo on its own. So this time I'm going to go Object, Path, Outline, Stroke, so we can do them all at the same time. So now I can go through and basically pick up these elements, get rid of the separation preview. Now this is what you've got to be careful of, is sometimes when you've got designs, it's what lies underneath. Just because one design worked perfectly, customers always make the files in many different ways. So what we need to do here is work out what is going on underneath this element. So it's actually overprinting the burgundy by the looks of it. Let's just carry on going, let's just keep converting. In fact, there's nothing going on, it is just the way that our colour gold looks different to the coloured gold on the design. So luckily our file was correct. So there we go, nice and easy. Now we've got to do that Balfour text, same thing again. We can come into this, and this is again, this is outlined, so let's take all of these and outline those strokes. Don't forget to pick up the inner parts of the circles. Oops, there we go. Okay, so Object, Path, Outline, Stroke. And theoretically we can now pick up the fill. So, number 17. So basically it becomes a click and apply type of technique. And as you'll probably see, within minutes, and bearing in mind I'm doing this quite slowly so you can follow me and explain what I'm doing at the same time, we've now converted that file. So if we were to send that off, and let's just do this now, let's just take this one for argument's sake. I'm just going to make a new document. Oops. What's trying to do? I think I just tried to paste that image inside that information box, which it isn't going to like. And I think it's confused my computer. There we go. Right. So let's just paste that design into there like we were doing before, and let's now just make the document a bit smaller. So I'm going to visualize this in the FX Viewer software, and this is a great thing about FX Viewer, is that we can see on our screen what a colour logic formatted design should look like. We cannot show you what a white ink mask separation should look like because it's all archaic and backwards and wouldn't work. So I'm just going to save a PDF, just a normal press quality PDF is fine for this. And I should theoretically have, there's the PDF. Drag that into our FX Viewer. It's going to take that PDF file, it's going to render it into a TIFF format which can be rendered in our 3D rendering screen. So just if, anybody hasn't seen this before, it's a 3D virtual room. You can go all the way around. and I'm going to visualize printing onto foil, and there we go. So no white ink masking, because it's all controlled at the DFE or the RIP by processing the ColorLogic formatted designs. So really quick, really simple, logical. Now let's go back to that's the original customer's original brief. Let's just quit from Acrobat. Now let's go tidy because we're going along. Let's go back into Illustrator. Don't need that PDF file anymore. Let's go back here. So now we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. And this is going to be quite amusing because I've only done white ink masking a few times the old-fashioned way, but this is typically what a designer has to do. So when you're dealing with white ink masking, you have to basically put knockouts and have things in different colours. Now the easiest way to do this, I say easiest way, but it's never really that easy. Let's just get our layers mask and let's just flatten all this first of all. Okay, so I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to get this information, I'm going to duplicate it, I'm going to put it on a new layer and I'm going to call that white. So then I have to go into my swatches, I have to make a new colour swatch and I want to see opaque white. So let's first of all, let's do it this way. So what colour is white? Well, white is white, 0%, okay? And that needs to be a spot colour. So we've got a white in there. Let's give it a different white. So let's call this new white so we know what we're doing. So there's our spot colour. Now let's just first of all take something, and I'll do this manually over here. So if I've got a design and it is, for argument's sake, let's see, let's make that a CMYK colour, that'll do. Now if I want to make an element with white over the top, so I'm going to colour that up, colour it up white, and it has to overprint, so we're basically setting in the overprint information. So I can't see it, so as soon as you put white to overprint it goes transparent. So you would never be able to see your design correctly on the screen. So what designers typically have to do is give it a random colour. So like a blue, for argument's sake. And by doing that, they can at least see where that separation is over the top. Now, in our opinion, that's the first problem that you've got, because if you give that white colour any colour at all, it's going to change the appearance of what you're designing with. So how can you design in colour correctly if you cannot see the separations correctly on your computer screen? So that's your first problem. Second problem that we've got is if I'm trying to output a colour and I'm printed onto a foil board, how do I know what those colours would look like when printed on a foil board? You know, for example, ColorLogic has its swatch books, so you can print your swatch book and you can choose your colour, and that's your colour communication system. But you can't go to Pantone and say, Pantone, where's your foil colour guide? Because they don't exist. In fact, Pantone's only metallic system that they have is the Pantone Metallic Formula Guide. And there's a clue in that name. It's a guide. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's accurate. It's only actually any good for the press that it was printed on. Now think about this as well. This is a wine label which probably might be printed, say, on a flexo press. So if I'm a designer and I'm printing this on a foil paper or foil label on a flexo press, but the only metallic system I can choose from is Pantone's Metallic Guide, which was printed on an offset printing press with offset inks, which is not achievable on a UV flexo press, which uses completely different inks, different formulations, different substrates, and even if you could, it's not printed on a foil board. So metallic inks are very different to foil. So how does a designer choose a foil colour when they're printing onto a foil metallized label or paper or board? And the answer is with a lot of trial and error. Now if you're the brand, then you've got to think, every time that designer is going backwards and forwards to the printer, picking colours, testing it on the press, deciding, that gold's not quite right, let's do it with a little bit of cyan in there, maybe put a bit more magenta in, and they do all these colour patches. Who is paying for all of that work? The brand. The brand is the one that gets stuck with the bill at the end of it. Now what we've done as a systematic approach is given a system that works for the brand, for the printers and for the designers, which speeds up the whole workflow. Now don't get me wrong, there are a lot of printers out there that like doing this backwards and forwards printing, because think about this. If I'm a printer and I'm charging you for every proof that you do, I'm making a lot of money from proofing. And I basically rely upon you making your mistakes, because then I make more profit. But in our opinion, that's not the right way to do business. You should be proactively helping and supporting the brands and the customers to get something done quicker and with less cost. At the end of the day, we're all trying to reduce our overheads. We're all trying to reduce the cost of manufacturing. And think about this. If you could get your branded product on a shelf 1 month quicker, 2 weeks quicker than you would do normally, what do those 1 or 2 weeks actually equate to in revenue opportunity for your brand? How many more products can you sell in that 2 to 4 weeks? So, ColourLogic is a fast solution. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of trying to make this white ink separation. So this should be the fun part. So let's, first of all, we're working on that layer for the white layer. And the reason I put it on a new layer is that I'm going to go through and start colouring all these things up differently. So what I want is, let's just get rid of these key lines around here, because that's like a die line. I think, yeah, it's a die line. Let's just delete that because I don't need it. So first of all, this first box, I'm going to go to my colours and I need that white. Okay, so that looks nice and easy. So great, done that. Now I have to go in and I have to pick all these things up. So let's pick those up, and I'm going to work on the strokes and colour up to white. And now I have to go in and pick all of these little bits up, if I can get these things. And it doesn't seem to want to let me, because, well, there you go, it's a stroke. Let's make that one blue, that one that white colour as well. So as you can see, for every single element that you don't want to be metallic, you have to go in and colour them all up. So if you've only got 2 elements you want making metallic with on this label, we apply the metallic effect to those 2 areas. What we don't do is apply the non-metallic areas. So you really are doing so much more work to try and get all of this done. Let's move into all this, so all these. I mean, it just goes on and on. So what might be best here is I'm going to go through and start doing this, and I will actually stop talking now, and when it comes down to it I will speed up this part of the video so you don't have to painfully watch me making it all. But let's just take a note of this timer. Let's call it 20 past 1 when we started. So, speak to you in a minute. Okay, so we've now created the white ink mask, and as you can see, just on this simple file on its own, it's taken over 10 minutes just to make that very simple white ink mask. So it's all about basically how you change certain elements. Now, we're pretty conversant in what we're doing with white ink separations because we do this day in, day out. For a graphic designer to understand that you're having to block out the opposite areas. So basically everything that you want in CMYK has to have this kind of like bluish separation, and then knock out all these areas or colour them up. And from there, I've now got my artwork file, but I can't see what it looks like properly because at the end of the day you've got a separation over the top. So, you know, how do you visualize and see what that's going to look like? I mean, you've got no viewing tool. How do you know you've done your job right? So you would have to then take this file, send it to the printer. The printer would then have to make a machine proof and send you back that machine proof, whether it's off a digital press, whether they do some kind of proofing from a prototyping device like a Roland DG or Mimaki or Epson. But you know, then you've got to wait for that proof to come back. So in the meantime, you're waiting, and then you get the job back and you decide, well, first of all, I've got my colours wrong, can make some adjustments, and maybe I've made a change with my white ink masking. But assuming you've done it right, it's a lot more complex. Whereas with our system, it's literally a case of you just go in and you basically colour it up as you want. And as you've seen with our palettes, we can change the colour to whatever we want pretty damn quickly. Oops, helps if I don't have it on the stroke. There you go. So we can make it a green metallic. So with our system, we only colour up the areas that we want to make metallic, and we leave everything else alone. Everything that you see as document white will print as white. So really quick, really simple, but difference is, look what we can see on the screen using ColorLogic. We can see the design, we can see it correctly, it looks right, I can proof it using the FX viewer, and I'll get it right before I send it off to the pre-press house. Therefore, I can cut down on my proofing costs and the iterative steps of going backwards and forwards and the time delays. So I'm using ColorLogic, it's color accurate, it's fast, it's efficient, and it's basically the only system in the world that you've got for printing onto metallic substrates. And this is for, you know, silverboard, rainbows, holographics. So there we go. That's how we do it against how somebody else would do it. Now just think about this before we go. This is a very simple design with a couple of areas. How would you do gradients and transitions? And what happens if the designers use something like a blending tool? So for example, you know, you might have something here whereby, let's pick up this text here, designers are always using different techniques. So let's go into one of these appearance ones. The opacity at the moment is default, but what happens if they'd use something like screen, which would then knock out the colours below? How do you interpret all these different types of gradient and effects based on what a designer may or may not use? So when you're thinking backwards, which is the backwards way of working with white ink separations, you're working very, very archaic, which is basically it's old-fashioned, it's clunky, doesn't work very well. And that restricts designers' creativity because they cannot think backwards creatively. You think positively where you want to see the effects, and that's what we do with our system. Now another thing just before we go, and this is one of the really key selling points of white ink masking. This is a wine label. Now let's just pretend that this wine label says underneath here, let's get rid of that Cuvée Sky, let's type in our, let's see, we're going to have Richards Vino. Okay, and let's give that something a bit of a nicer type of typeface. That'll do if I spell it right. Something like that. Okay, so we've got Richards Vino, and I want to personalize my bottles of wine for whoever's ordering it. So this is an online ordering system, and I want that to also be in gold. Well, guess what? With ColorLogic, we can just color it up and we're done. Now let's just do that in real time. Okay, so I've now got my personalized wine label. So if we have a variable data field, which you set on your wine label, and you color it up with the ColorLogic reference, when that goes through the variable data tools, it will basically substitute out each one of those names and automatically do the white ink masking for you at the DFE or the RIP. Now, how would you do that with variable data in metallic using manual white ink masking? Because what you have to do, you have to go in there, and every single one of these would have to be outlined. You'd have to do a white ink mask around it. For example, I would have to go into my swatches, color it up. Well, it's not going to be white as that one, it's going to be 0 white. And then you would have to have white surrounding all the areas. So it's a manual mask around every single variable data field that wanted to be metallic. Now, if you only had 4 bottles of wine that you're printing with 4 customers, you can do that. and you can take the time and make those white manual masks. For example, let me just show you how you do it on this one. We'll go down here and you say, right, there it is, and we'll make that white. Oops, where am I going? Make it white and make it 0 white, and turn off the overprint. Oh, no. Oh, it's on a different layer, I guess. Yeah, there we go, different layer. So we have, if we can get there, this is what it is. Working with white is a little bit clunky. Right, so now I've done my white ink mask, and that's great if you've got 4 or 5 labels. But what happens if you've got 1,000 labels? You're not going to pay somebody to sit there and manually white ink mask around all these things. So variable data in metallic, when you're working on a metallic board and using a white ink mask to block out the substrate, just doesn't happen. But with ColorLogic, you can have variable data fields. You can do so much creative stuff that you can do with ColorLogic. Very fast, very efficient, and as you can see from the results, if you see any of our samples, they look amazing. Now, this is, like I say, a basic file. If anybody wants to do something a little bit more creative, then of course, let's just show you something. So I'm just going to open up one of our standard test files just to really show you how we could push this. So let's go to another training for Illustrator, and let's open up this voucher. Now this is just really just to see if I can find that missing image first. And where are we? Why is the image missing? What's the problem when you do things in real time? See if we can find it. If not, we will have to ignore it. How did I spell it? Well, I don't know why it's not finding it, but anyway, let's just ignore that for now. Oops. Okay, so normally in the background there would be a Mount Rushmore image, and that is normally done using text. So we embed text, an image, into all the text. What it was going to show you is that every single character in here would have a different value of white. When you start working with galoshes like this, I mean, can you imagine trying to do the white ink masking around these elements? You know, bear in mind that the white ink masking here, this background, doesn't exist. All of these are strokes. So to do a white ink mask to make white inside there, you've got to basically create all those elements. So you can be simple, but you can be really, really extreme. And how you push the limits of designing with white ink separations. And at the end of the day, all designers design differently, and they come out with some very, very creative stuff. So it's down to either the designer or the pre-press house to do that white ink masking. So again, as I say, as a brand, do you want to pay for a job to be produced using ColorLogic, which will speed up your workflow, make it color accurate, reproducible, and simple? Or do you want to pay somebody to do the manual method of working with your files and charge you for many, many hours of pre-press time, proofing, and stuff that, in our opinion, is no longer needed? So there we go. ColorLogic versus white ink printing, of the manual masking, should I say. There we go. Any questions or concerns, please contact us at support@color-logic.com.